Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Back live finally after it feels like a couple weeks or for only the second time for the last month and a half. We missed you all. We missed going live, but we're back even though we technically never left. Welcome to another episode of the Sports Agents of Chaos podcast, the 40th episode of the Sports Agents of Chaos podcast in our numerical order. Look at that. We're 10 away from the big 5-0 boys. But more importantly, it is the last episode of this podcast for the year 2022. Because we always either record or have things air on Saturday. So this just all works out perfectly for the three of us. Technically four, plus our favorite friend in the bottom right of my screen for my viewing purposes. As always, introducing you to the show, Iceman Jurg, joined by my compatriots, as always, of course, my man on the same row as me, Justin Zuckman Zucker. Justin, how we doing?
I'm doing good. Getting pointed at.
Getting pointed at. Yes, he is getting pointed at by the man down below who delivered one of, if not probably, I would say the greatest segment in show history. Has the show peaked? We will see how that goes over the next coming weeks and months. But a original Podfather / SAOC production with Twist the Night Before Rancemas. Podfather Rick. Rick, how are you doing?
I contemplated buying a matching shark head to go with Sandoval's deer head. That way he could, jump the shark metaphorically and literally at the same time.
What a skit that would have been.
It's great. It's great to be back. It's great to be back for one final time here in 2022. And looking forward to seeing what 2023 has in store for all of us. It's this is SAOC XL, if you will, if you're going by the Super Bowl numerals. So it's pretty good. Yes.
Indeed. And speaking of which, what will 2023 bring us? Well, within the first month and a half or so, we will be crowning the next Super Bowl champion, of course, in the NFL. And it's going to be very intriguing to see who that'll be. But before we go all the way down the line there, you still got 2 more weeks of the NFL regular season, which we're going to, kind of touch upon this week. This was week 16 there were some good games. It was some interesting stuff, and there is one specific piece of news that we are for sure going to cover. But for the most part, we're going to talk about this week, or the remaining weeks, in a very interesting way, courtesy of the Podfather himself. But we'll get to that later in the episode. Of course, as you guys know, we also have our pick challenge that we constantly do. We'll update you guys on the standings there in a very brief moment. We can kind of confirm that there is one definitive, finality. Well, technically 2 definitive finalities in the race for the pick challenge, which I think most people that have actually keep up with the show can actually probably figure out. But we will confirm all that later on. And of course, following last week's Twist the Night Before Rancemas, I don't know how he's going to follow it up, but Rick is going to try to follow it up with another rant podium this time. I will say, it's going to be interesting now, Justin, if this is going to become a yearly thing, which we'll see if we make it all the way to Christmas next year. But if it does become a thing, how much is Rick is going to start cataloging everything he rants about to keep for next year. So that's going to be interesting, to say the least.
I had to catalog in a day for this year, man. There were some rhymes that I was struggling with. And then, I got through it at the end, but I was just like, oh, man, I got to do a better job of ranking all this stuff. That way I know what to actually put in next year. Or maybe do a different story, something like that.
Well, the good news is you have about 357 days left before you have to come out with it. So you got some time.
I was going to say, Rick, you got a good 50 plus weeks before the next one. You got time.
How exciting. Yes. All right. That's cool. I can do that.
So as we can't wait to see how the end of the episode shakes up, let's keep it to the present. Let's keep it to the beginning. As always, the way we begin things, our master of games, our keeper of keys, you could call him, because there was a bunch of Hogwarts conversation, pre-show. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, other shows, prep what they're going to talk about throughout the episode. No. We talk about Hogwarts and the Harry Potter universe before we start our episode. So our keeper of keys and games, Zuckman, has his tales to tell and his trivia to give. Justin, what do we got this week?
All right. Who has the most rush yards per game in a single season?
You would think that for a guy who was looking at the primary thing I was looking at this entire week leading up to the show, that I would have a pretty good idea about this. And I think I do have a pretty good idea about this, actually. I think I do. But I'm going to quantify this by asking you, are we talking about in general, or are we talking about specific length of season? Because the records kind of fluctuate a little bit.
So, in general, I think that it's before the 16-game season started, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. But Yeah, just for a season, they averaged the most rush yards per game of all time.
Well, that kind of gives me an idea here. And Jurg, I'm going to bounce off a few names off of you,
Right.
just as a sort of a thought process. Since we're talking about it could be before the 16-game season, so it could be a 14-game season. I think it's Juice. I think it's OJ Simpson.
Yeah, that sounds right. I think people forget, obviously, because, for good reason, they forgot about his football career. And also he's become, quite the, figure on social media, you could say,
Yeah,
in his later years. But he was a monster on the
he
field.
was.
He was a beast. So I don't think that's a bad first one, because I'm kind of in the same mode as you. Like, I'm trying to parse through, because it doesn't, it's probably going to be someone with a 2,000-yard rushing season, but at the same time, you need to think about those 2,000-yard rushing seasons in detail on which specific one it could be, because some of the guys just barely got 2,000 yards.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think that's a good first one. I'm totally fine with that being our first guess.
OJ Simpson, first guess.
1973. You guys are on it.
Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, do you know the best yards per game for a career?
Ooh. I was looking more at seasonal. I wasn't really looking at
Is there a minimum to that?
careers.
Minimum games played, I mean.
I'm sure there is, but I don't see it on my list.
I mean, with any of those, it has to be around 200 games or 100 games or something like that.
Well, I mean, look, there are guys that have rushed for 100 yards, and I'm assuming they had to play at least one full season,
Right.
Yeah.
for that
Well,
for them to be eligible for that.
Well, the reason why I'm asking for that, the reason why I'm asking for a career is because Terrell Davis, bunch of rushing yards, but his career got cut short. But he was so dominant in his stretch of time.
But you know what too? Like, Terrell Davis is a good one, but that, Barry Sanders could have been another good guess. But there's a guy who had an even shorter career. If we're talking about short careers that were incredible, you got to go back to the original, the maybe the greatest running back of all time before the modern era, and that's Jim Brown.
Yeah. Was his career that short? How long did he play? I thought 9-10 years.
8 years.
Really? Oh,
Yeah, he wasn't around for that long. He was not around for that long. I think he was late 50s to mid 60s. He wasn't around for that long. But when he was there, Jim Brown made everybody else want to leave the football field and go home to their mommies. It's that simple. He was incredible. He was a really good player. So I think career is Jim Brown.
All right. His first guess will be Jim Brown. Mine will be Terrell Davis.
Terrell Davis is third on the list at 97.5 yards per game in his career. He only played 6 years. Second on the list is Barry Sanders, believe it or not, 99.8.
Not a shock.
His career was 89 to 98. And as the only player to currently be averaging over 100 yards per game at 104.3 from 1957 to 1965, the original Jim Brown.
Yeah.
He was a monster. He was a beast.
And think about that too. They had really just invented the forward pass maybe 20 years prior, maybe 10 years prior. So the game was running through Jim Brown. So
yeah. God. Man, Jim Brown, what an entity. He won MVP, correct? He definitely won MVP at least once.
I think so.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Absolutely outstanding. Outstanding stuff right there. Outstanding trivia there, Justin. Do we have one more question with the runners, or are we moving on here?
I can make one up if you want.
Sure. we have time.
You guys are digging the trivia. I'm all for it.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Same records, active players.
Ooh.
So
most rush yards per game over a single season
of active
players, and the most rush yards per game in their career for active players.
Okay.
And the second one will get tricky.
Clearly.
The second one will get tricky. Yeah, because
second one might be a quarterback, I feel.
It's possible.
One of these might be a quarterback. Are we only talking running backs, Justin? Or just like
Yeah, they're all running backs. At least
Okay.
on this list.
Well, okay, so here's my fun little bit with this, because technically speaking, I mean, did he retire officially, Frank Gore?
I thought he did.
Did he officially retire?
I thought it was like I remember seeing Instagram posts about it. Like I'm pretty sure.
I thought I did too, but you never can tell with these running backs, especially Frank Gore.
Right.
I mean, all of a sudden he resurfaced with the Jets, and I was like, what is he doing here?
I don't know. I think he officially retired.
Yeah,
But either way, he's not the answer.
I gotta give a shout out though to his son, Frank Gore Jr. I don't know if you saw that bowl game, Southern Miss. Oh my God, I want that guy on my team, Frank Gore Jr. I want that guy on my team.
He's definitely getting drafted. Is he draft eligible this year or next year?
I would assume next year, but I mean, he could probably go this year if he wanted to. But stay another year at Southern Miss, or you know what, be in the college transfer portal. Just go to whatever school, like freaking Keaton Slovis, like 4 schools in 4 years.
Yeah. Well, after that game,
I had a rant about that too.
After that game, he had Frank Gore Jr. could definitely get a good NIL offer, and honestly deserves it with how he
deserves it. So Zeke or Derrick Henry then for most rushing yards active.
Yeah.
Well, there's 2 questions. One is for a single season, and one is for a career.
Per game per season, per game for
most rushing yards in a single season. Well,
they're averaging the most rushing yards per game in a single season.
Yeah.
So like over the 16 games or 17 games,
I mean
most rushing yards per game.
Well, so Derrick Henry is been the closest to 2,000 of the active guys.
Well, he's broken.
He got 2,000 last.
I mean, on a consistent basis.
True.
Yeah. So I think he's got to be an answer.
For season or career is the question. I think for Henry it would be season because early in his career he didn't get the rock a lot.
Yeah, I think for season.
So we'll say Henry for season.
Per season, Derrick Henry is at 126.7 in 2022. He averaged 126.7 yards a game.
Oh my God!
Listen, OJ was 143.1.
These running backs. Like, remind me why running backs are not valued that much. Like, come on now.
They break down.
Short lifespan.
Yeah.
Different game than the 80s and 90s, man.
Damn these people.
And then rushing yards per game in a career by an active running back, correct?
Yeah.
How long in the league do they have to be?
I would say this has to be at least
1 season minimum.
Really? 1 season minimum? Josh Jacobs?
Technically, I don't know if they're taking into account this season because it's not complete yet. As of right now, he is not on this list.
Nick Chubb?
Maybe.
He's been efficient since day one.
He has been. Yeah, he's been a really good solid player.
Because whereas like this is the thing, Nick Chubb has kept at his level since he got his mini extension. Mm-hmm. Zeke Elliott has fallen off from his first couple of years. Like that's why it's interesting. Like we bring up the top 2 running backs for the single season are probably not going to be the guys for the career because Derrick Henry, it was a slow start at the beginning for him, no fault of his own, just Tennessee being Tennessee, and then with Zeke. Amazing the first couple of years, but it was like year 4 or 5 where he started to tail off it. So that's what makes it interesting.
I think Nick Chubb's a good guess.
Yeah, I'll say Nick Chubb for the career so far.
Nick Chubb is currently number 2 on the list. He's averaging 84.3 yards per game for his career, which has been since 2018.
He's been efficient. He's crushed it.
He has been.
He might get a second contract extension after his rookie deal. If he keeps it up, he probably
it wouldn't surprise me. It really wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
So then shorter than I'm trying to think who's been in the league for a shorter period of time.
But that's been a monster. Jonathan Taylor?
No, I don't think so.
I think he's got yeah.
He's come on as of late, but Dalvin?
Ooh, that's not a bad one.
Or Joe Mixon, maybe?
Yeah, Joe Mixon's been pretty consistent.
He has been.
Joe Mixon's good because he's a scorer. I don't think he's a yards guy. And he does a lot of catching, too. This is rush yards per game.
That's true. Maybe. What about Saquon?
Could be because even though he's gotten injured a lot, like when he's like if we're only taking into account like games where he's actually playing.
Yeah.
See, it's tricky because the seasons between his first one and this one are like very
Agreed.
Because how efficient was he in the seasons where he played less games? How efficient was he in yards per game? That's the only thing like that I'm struggling with.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a bad guess, but it's just you're trying to think how reliable was the Giants' O-line the last couple of years, and the question is, yeah,
well, it hasn't really been that reliable, that's for sure.
So, I think Dalvin Cook is a pretty good guess, Rick. It's been pretty consistent. Minnesota's been a pretty consistent rushing team ever since he got there.
Yeah, I'll roll with it. I'll roll with Dalvin Cook.
From 2017 to 2022, Dalvin Cook has rushed for 83.8 yards. He's third on the list.
Ooh,
active players.
So we continue the tradition of us naming everybody else.
Oh yeah, this is how we do things. Absolutely.
Well, we each have one more guess, so there's that. Well, so Rick, what about Christian McCaffrey? Do you think?
Too hurt, and he's
too
hurt, and he's more of an all-purpose guy. You know what? I mean, he has, but Jonathan Taylor hasn't really played a lot of games. He's only played maybe 45.
Yeah. And
he's still almost at 4,000 yards. I know he's hurt now, but he's not a bad guess. I mean, that's a pretty.
Taylor played 45 games. This is only his third season.
I feel like he's been in the league.
Well, because this is year 2 of the 17 games. So if his rookie season was 16 games, and the last few years have been 17, that's over 45 games then.
Well, but he's been hurt
this season. Yeah, I mean his first 2 years he was pretty healthy.
Yeah.
I'll for my last guess, I'll say Jonathan Taylor. I'll say Jonathan Taylor. JT.
From 2020 to 2022, Jonathan Taylor has averaged 89.3 yards per game. He is currently the number 1 player on this list.
Wow.
Let's go.
And you guys did get number 4 with Zeke, who's currently tied with Houston Texans great Arian Foster at 81.6 yards per game, but has by far the longer career.
Wait. Arian Foster's still active?
No, he's just tied in total yards per game for
I was like, I saw Arian Foster in draft day. How is he still active?
No, so I have the whole list, but then I have the highlighted players already. Yeah.
Fair enough. Okay, I was gonna say like, wait, Arian Foster's still out there kicking it? Good for him.
No, he's not. I mean, maybe he's alive. Yeah, he's kicking. But...
I mean, I meant for the running. God damn it.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, Justin. Morbid end to the trivia that me and Rick get. Thank you very much. Let's move on to the next game we play with Would You Rather.
All right. All right, so we're looking ahead now. And if you are a wild card team, who would you rather play? The Titans or the Jags?
I mean, come on. I'm answering for both of us here. You'd rather face the Titans because at the end of the day, you don't fear any of their quarterbacks. They have, like, Ryan Tannehill is injured, and he's not good when he plays anyway because he likes throwing 3 interception games when they're the number 1 seed and their defense gets 9 sacks. Malik Willis is a rookie, and Josh Dobbs is Josh Dobbs. Like, you'd rather face the Titans. Like, yes, Derrick Henry is something to fear, but if the quarterback situation is that bad, if you go up by 10 on Tennessee early, you're going to force them to throw, and that's the weakness of their offense. And it's been very apparent that that's the weakness. And honestly, like, look, I have respect for players on Tennessee's defense as a whole. I like Harold Landry. I like Jeffrey Simmons. I like Byard, one of their safeties. I think their corners are young, but like they have potential. But the defense as a whole, to me, is more parts rather than an amazing whole, in my opinion. At least that's what I think. So I'd rather face Tennessee any day of the week.
The only argument I'll make for facing Jacksonville instead of Tennessee is experience. Because, Doug Peterson's got all the experience in the world. He's won a Super Bowl, but
that team doesn't.
That team has no experience in the playoffs. And, you can make an argument that, they've been good this year, but you can make an argument that given the right matchup, that Jacksonville home game could be a 50-50 split. If they're playing Baltimore, I can see a lot of Ravens fans traveling to Jacksonville and making that a 50-50 split in that home arena as well. And that might rattle a Trevor Lawrence. That might rattle, guys like that. But in honest truth, you go in, you want to face the team that's limping because Josh Dobbs is not going to be a hero in 2 weeks. Neither is Malik Willis. So you go in, you want to face Tennessee. But there is an argument for facing Jacksonville. But Tennessee has so many holes in their roster and so many red flags that it's not worth it for the Titans. Like you go in, you're going to win that game. Whoever goes in, if Tennessee is the 4 seed, whoever goes into that game, probably Baltimore, will be a double-digit favorite. Because, again, too, if it's Baltimore, you got to think at that point Lamar Jackson's back.
Yeah.
And he'll probably dice up that Tennessee defense. So, yeah, Titans.
You know what's actually, before we move on to the next one, you know what I actually, I had like a moment of realization, I think this past week or the week before, about something about between the Jaguars and the Titans as we have seen the last couple of weeks play out. So, obviously Christian Kirk, the contract he got and how it changed the NFL landscape. And there will be an episode one day of this podcast where we will psychoanalyze the effect Christian Kirk's contract had, ladies and gentlemen. Trust and believe that. But one of the effects that contract had, because we talk about Devontae Adams, we talk about Tyreek Hill. Another wide receiver who wanted
AJ Brown.
AJ Brown. And look how god-awful that Tennessee Titans offense has been without A.J. Brown there.
Look how incredible he's been with Philadelphia.
Exactly. And the difference he has made for Jalen Hurts. Like Christian Kirk, this is both funny, but also there's a hint of truth to it, which is exactly what we love on this show. Christian Kirk may have won the Jaguars the AFC South this season.
I don't disagree with you.
Come
I
on
really
now.
don't disagree with you.
That would be a great essay to write, to submit to college credit. How Christian Kirk won the AFC South for Jacksonville.
Yes.
Just all of the rippling effects of it that it had on the league, which led to Jacksonville being relevant again. It
is the greatest example I can think of in the last decade or so of the butterfly effect.
Yep.
How one little ripple in the space-time continuum has affected so many other teams all across the league. And in truth, has affected so many other leagues because look at the contracts they're giving in Major League Baseball now. It's insane. It's insane. Christian Kirk could become the Kurt Flood of this generation, basically. It's amazing to think about that.
Oh, my God. Thank you, Christian Kirk, for giving this podcast life.
Yeah. And we mocked it.
Yeah.
We mocked him in the very beginning. Hard. We did.
But to be fair, we've also not given credit.
No, okay, but let's also ask this question. Has he played up to the level of the contract?
I need to look that up.
It's funny, I was literally typing his name into the Google as you guys
As was
said.
I. 76
close to 1,000 yards.
76 catches, 988 yards, and 7 touchdowns.
That's not bad.
That's pretty solid for a first year.
Season. Yeah.
I think it's also
first year.
First year in that offense, first year with the head coach, first year with that quarterback.
It's completely reasonable to think that he ends up with 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns, which is absolutely living up to that contract.
Yeah.
Well, considering who the Jaguars are playing in the next 2 weeks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's already set career highs in yards, in touchdowns, and
good move for them.
Yeah,
they want that. That should be another episode in the offseason. Let's analyze the big contract and see if they panned out or not. And in year one. So
plan it as we go. You guys are getting behind the scenes, getting a peek behind the curtain right now.
Curtain's been drawn. You're seeing everything.
All right. Well, I guess we can move on to the next one now. Who's the most dangerous wild card team? Is it
of all the confirmed teams so far?
Is it the Chargers? Is it the Cowboys? Or is it an unnamed team? The field.
Well, it's funny because we're still waiting on 3 more wild card spots to definitively be clinched in that field. So that's what makes it interesting. Rick, did you hear the question? You kind of went out with internet.
No, bounce it back to me because I'm still processing it. It's back to me again.
Who is the most dangerous wild card team? The Chargers, the Cowboys, or a different team?
And Jurg, what was your answer?
Oh, I haven't answered yet. I'm just like thinking
Okay.
it.
I have an idea in mind. I'm gonna say the field. I'm not taking the. You want a specific team?
Yeah.
Well,
obviously, I think 9 teams could beat 2.
Well, yes. Which team could be the most dangerous? You know what?
If you say Washington, I quit.
No. There's a team that has gotten into the playoffs the last 3 times as a wild card. And 2 of those last 3 times they ended up going on to win the Super Bowl.
Oh my God, I know what he's talking about.
Because they had nothing to play for. And they had a good team and they just rode a hot hand. The Giants. I'm saying the Giants. This is the team that has nothing to play for. They have no expectations whatsoever. And yet, Brian Daboll has done something in this first season that's been incredible. Really has been. Daniel Jones has become a renaissance player. And Saquon Barkley has turned back into the player that they wanted when they drafted him. Their defense is pretty solid. Now, their wide receivers, they're getting stronger. They're getting better as they go along. The fact that they have Daniel Bellinger back is huge for their pass game and their run game as well. And you know what? This is a team that fears nobody. This is the team that has not, aside from one game, the Philadelphia game, the one game, they've been in every game they played in, and they've been down to the wire in every game they played in. They're not afraid of anybody. So I think no matter who they match up with, they're going to go in with zero expectations, with zero, fear. I can see the Giants making a deep run potentially based upon all of that. So I think, I was tempted to go with the 7th seed in the AFC depending on who it is, because you can make a similar argument for like a Pittsburgh if they do make the playoffs as the 7th seed, because that defense is frightening. But the Giants, all they need to do is win this week and they're in. So I'll go with the Giants.
I'm going to disagree with the Giants only because their current matchup, presuming they're still the 6th seed and presuming the top 3 hold, is the 49ers. If it was the Vikings, I'd give them a puncher's chance.
Only? That's the only reason that the Giants aren't the most dangerous wildcard team?
Not the only reason, but let me humor Rick's choice here, please, Justin.
I know, but I can't let Rick get away with it.
And I think this will be like the first time in a while I'm gonna have to drop a coin into the swear jar here. But the 49ers will kick the shit out of the Giants if they were to play in the wild card matchup. They will decimate them. Like, it's not even close. I mentioned the swear jar for a reason, so that was plenty of time for the parents to cover the kids' ears here. But
his ears are burning after that. He had to take the headphones out.
But yeah, no, it's not even close. Like, the 49ers will destroy the Giants, and Big Clock Brock or Jimmy G, either one of them, whoever starts that playoff game. Well, they could sit Jimmy G out for one more week if they face the Giants. Like, the 49ers were not sweating it. You mentioned the Steelers defense. The 49ers defense will eat Daniel Jones alive. Like,
yes, but
no, there is no but, Rick.
Yes, there is. No. To your discussion about the seeding, there's still a chance the Niners can finish at the 2.
I know, but we have to play it as is.
Right. I understand what you're saying, but I'm just saying if matchups can fall their way and the Giants can get a favorable first round matchup, then you're going into probably a game against Philadelphia, and Jalen Hurts isn't fully healthy, but he will be after a month. But it's a chance to kind of test that and see what happens. So
here's a question: can the Niners realistically still get the 1 seed?
I don't know.
Because technically they can get 3 wins if the 13 wins if the Eagles lose out. They will have a tied record.
True. But then if the Cowboys win out, would they have 13 wins? So then you really make it.
Well, that's why the Eagles have not yet clinched the division.
Right.
Playoff machine. I want to do this right now while Jerry's giving his answer. So
yeah. So I will give my answer. We're breaking it down. So I've fallen out with the Cowboys over the last couple of weeks. Like, Dak is just being way too inconsistent now. He's struggling.
Like struggling and not struggling at the same time. It's very weird.
Yeah, it's really weird. He lost them. He lost them the Jaguars game, but then he really helped win them the Eagles. Like, it's really freaking weird.
And like half of his interceptions are not his fault, but then the ones that are his fault are really bad.
Yeah.
All right. So Time out. I'll jump back in.
Give us
yes. So if the Niners win out and the Eagles lose out, then the Niners will be the 1 seed unless Minnesota wins out. Because Minnesota could finish 14-3.
One more win.
Yeah. But if Minnesota splits, the Niners are the 1 seed. The Eagles drop down to the 3.
Cool.
And then if Dallas were to beat Washington, Dallas becomes the 3 seed. The Eagles would fall to the 5.
Wow.
Yeah.
That would be a huge shakeup. I don't see it happening, but that would be a huge shakeup.
Well, I don't think so either. But I mean, that's the question really is going to become, if the Eagles don't win this week, do they try and send everybody out for week 18 to try and win the division and the 1 seed?
Well, if they don't win this week, they need to play for real next week, for sure.
They have to. Yeah.
I think.
But is that rushing Jalen Hurts back too soon? Is that rushing Hurts back too soon?
I didn't say Jalen Hurts has to play. I said the Eagles need to play for real.
But I figure you would probably have your best quarterback out there, though.
If he can. You're not going to sacrifice him because you'd rather have him for the playoff game.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, like, Gardner Minshew did a respectable job in that game.
He has been.
I expect him to win this week. But
yeah.
I don't think it's going to be an issue.
Yeah.
But,
for sure.
Yeah.
All right. My team. My dangerous team. So, I've fallen out of favor with the Cowboys. Let me go to the field real quick and all the options. Ravens, if Lamar was definitively healthy, he gives them a really good shot, but there are still a lot of questions about the rest of that team for the playoffs, especially the supporting cast around him. Like, if there's any indication you need as to Lamar has been that offense for the last several years, look at these last couple of weeks of him being hurt. They cannot do anything without him there. Simple as that. Like, it's not a simple, Tyler Huntley plays the exact same way. No, Lamar is a special quarterback. If there were any people out there that still had doubts about that, last month, please. Thank you very much. There is your sample size. So Baltimore I'm iffy on because of the supporting cast around him. Dallas I've kind of fallen out of favor with. If I go to the entire rest of the field, Giants, I've already made my thoughts pretty clear about them. The Commanders, they're putting Carson Wentz in now, so I don't know about all that. The Seattle Seahawks, I love Geno, but the Seahawks are starting to flounder. The Detroit Lions are kind of showing us that they're maybe still not ready for that stage yet, where even if they do sneak in, I don't think they would be I don't think they'd be super dangerous, unless maybe it's the Vikings. Who am I missing in the NFC? I feel like there's at least one.
No, you got everybody in the NFC.
I got everyone in the NFC? Okay.
Yeah.
Then if I rush it over to the AFC, the Dolphins, Tua is going to be out at least most likely the next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Because, great galaxy brain idea there, Miami, once again getting your quarterback hurt. The other AFC wildcard team potentials are the Jets and the Patriots. Need I really say more?
And the Steelers and the Raiders.
And the Steelers and the Raiders. Well, the Raiders are throwing their season away.
Yeah, right.
and the Steelers, I can see it. I get the idea of their defense can carry them, but I feel like a Steelers-Chiefs game, unless Kenny Pickett pulls out the greatest performance of his literal football career, the Chiefs are going to beat them in that game because that defense can only hold you so much to where you have to go up against the Kansas City Chiefs. As great of a defense as the Steelers might have, the Bucs, when they destroyed the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, at least they put up 30 points. Yeah. Kenny Pickett's not putting up 30 points, especially in a Matt Canada offense. So I have to knock out the Steelers there. I'm going with the Chargers for my most dangerous team. I think Justin Herbert has proved a lot of people wrong this season. He's gotten this team into the playoffs definitively, unlike the other quarterback in his draft class, who some people are trying to compare them to each other. And that quarterback hasn't been able to clinch his team into the playoffs yet. Granted, he's hurt, but irregardless, Justin Herbert has proved that he's more than a social media quarterback, Emmanuel Acho. So, I think Justin Herbert, I know there are some things about this Chargers team that need to get better. Austin Eckler has been inconsistent, so is the run game overall, so you don't like that. Keenan Allen not being healthy throughout the last, in stretches of the season, which that's kind of been the story for every other season in his career. And Mike Williams is not having the same year as last year. But Justin Herbert is still getting things to happen. He's getting things done. He's getting them in the position to win every single week. That's more than what you can ask for sometimes. And Justin Herbert, I feel, in the playoffs is going to potentially unleash himself and prove why there's a reason why in the Mahomes, Burrow, and Allen conversation, he deserves to be definitively with those three guys. Chargers are my most dangerous playoff team because I feel like they have a lot to prove with a chip on their shoulder. And especially with how last season ended and how we buried them for it, I think this is a team that has a lot to prove. So going with the Chargers as the most dangerous team because this is also the team, they compete. Weirdly enough, no matter what the situation is, they could be a 3-win team and they'll still have a 35-34 game with the Kansas City Chiefs. They just compete with the best of the best. I think there's something to that where when you face the best teams, even if you don't win the game, you're still a possession away from winning the game. I can't say that about a lot of these upper wildcard teams.
I think the unpredictability of not only the wild card teams that we have, but also the top 3 seeds in both conferences makes this question really that much more enticing. And I think we'll know a little bit more next week about what the matchups are going to be.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's going to be really interesting because you could see the Chargers play the Bills, and Justin Herbert going cross country to a cold Buffalo. Maybe not the greatest answer.
You could see the Chargers play the Chiefs.
You could say that. Yep, you could see that.
You could see the Chargers play the Bengals, and Justin's quarterback name game will just malfunction.
Yeah.
So we know what we're rooting for on this podcast.
Yes.
Any other would you rather, Justin, or are we moving on to fact or fiction?
We can move on.
All right.
Cool. Let's move on.
I'm just going to stick with one so far for this fact or fiction, and I'm going to give you a lot of context for it. Fact or fiction, Lamar Jackson will be a Raven next season. Now, again, Lamar has played very well, but he is currently a free agent. Odds are they will franchise him. He has said he's not going to play under the franchise tag. For context, he's missed 5 games last season. He's on pace to miss the last 5 games of this season as well for the second time in his career. Has not played a full season since technically his rookie year. He did sit out the last week of his MVP season in 2019. The Ravens offensively have not been stellar, even with Lamar towards the end of that run he had this season. He started off electric, but they've really slowed down. They need a lot of pieces. He gets hurt a lot. Is this the end of Lamar that we're going to see in purple?
No, I think that's a fictional statement because, as Jurg said, you are seeing the value of Lamar Jackson when he's not on the field. And true, Baltimore could have put in a different backup quarterback and maybe had a better result, but they chose not to do that because they chose to believe that Lamar was going to be healthy for the whole season. And they chose to believe that their crew of Tyler Huntley and Anthony Brown could be serviceable if need be. The fact that Tyler Huntley is a 4th alternate for the Pro Bowl is stupid, number one. Another qualm for another day. But I think you're gonna. This is not the end of Lamar in purple and purple and black. I think if Baltimore is smart, they try and lock him up to a longer extension, and then they go get another wide receiver because that's where they're hurting the most. Bateman's on IR. Devin Duvernay's on IR. It's basically just the Mark Andrews show at this point. That's not a bad show, but it's not the show you want. You want to have him be like a supporting cast member. Have him win the Best Supporting Actor Golden Globe. Don't have him be the lead actor. I liken it to Sean Bean. Sean Bean can carry a show performance as the supporting role, like in season 1 of Game of Thrones, but if Sean Bean's the main guy, like he was in the short TNT show Legends, it only lasts 5 episodes. With Mark Andrews as your main target, it's not going to last you very long. So I think Lamar staying in Baltimore is the right call for them. It's the right call. He is their guy. Because you can't have it be that the one Super Bowl or the 2 Super Bowls, the one Super Bowl that everyone remembers, because no one remembers the Baltimore-San Francisco one because that's when the lights went out. That's all they care about. That's all they remember. The one that everyone remembers for Baltimore is that Trent Dilfer was their quarterback. You need to have something better than that. So, yeah.
Sure. Just so you know, the last 2 games that he played in before he got injured in that Broncos game, he had 460 yards, 1 passing touchdown, and 2 turnovers.
Doesn't really affect much. They should pay him.
I'm not saying he doesn't deserve to get paid. I'm just saying, does it happen with the Ravens?
And that's the thing, because it's a shoulda, coulda, woulda, and this is a new saying I picked up, which is not mine. I give full credit to the guy who I've picked up the saying to. If ifs and buts were candy and nuts, then the world would be a lot happier place. Thank you, Steve Dangle, for that. That has now entered my lexicon for sayings. But for me, should the Ravens pay him and will they is the crux of this fact or fiction here, because obviously they should pay him. Because it's also, to me, kind of obvious that Harbaugh and Roman have kind of really gotten stale with the offense because, again, Rick kind of mentioned it. They thought they would be fine with the quarterback situation because Tyler Huntley actually played decently well last season when this situation came up, but it's not been the same case this season. And it just really goes to show how valuable Lamar Jackson is to make this offense work. Like we've kind of said it with I think what I usually say when it comes to like Kyle Shanahan and running backs can kind of be applied here, but it's not because of the scheming, it's because of Lamar. You can put a couple different running backs to work with Lamar, and he's worked with a bunch of different running backs in his career, really, because like all of them get hurt. But he's worked with Dobbins, and he's worked with Mark Ingram, and he's worked with Gus. Like he's worked with so many running backs. I think you can have solace in that portion of your offense. Like Rick said, it's about getting a bona fide number one caliber receiver to be able to support him, or Christian Kirk, either or. Like even Christian Kirk would be better for this offense than any other guys here at this rate. But regardless, that's what it's about. And really, to me, I think Baltimore has proven that they have not been willing to make it happen. Let's get a little spicy and zesty with the show here, and let's cause some chaos. I think fiction. I don't think Baltimore is going to be able to lock him up because I think Lamar is going to take this entire year, and he's basically going to make it clear, look, if you're still not willing to pay me, we're done. And I think he's going to take his tenure elsewhere, and he's going to work out with another team. And trust me when I say there's going to be a good number of teams that will call up Lamar because he doesn't have an agent, so it has to be him, that are going to call up Lamar Jackson and be like, hey, we want to bring you here. Let's hammer out the contract. I think I think there are plenty of teams that are going to be willing to do it.
Lamar Jackson in green and white sounds really, really nice for 2023.
For the Packers, right? That's what you're talking
That's green and yellow, George.
I mean Aaron Rodgers wears white sleeves. No. Lamar can wear white sleeves.
No.
But yeah. Well, I think there are a lot of teams that not just that need a quarterback that will call it. I think there are some teams that have a decent quarterback situation that'll be like, you say, who's available? Give him a call. Give him a call. So Lamar Jackson, I don't think he's going to be a Baltimore Raven anymore. I think the Ravens really screwed this up, and they're going to have to go with quarterback hunting, which is not easy to do when you have a late first-round pick because you actually made the playoffs. So,
and ESPN will then broadcast the decision part 2 when Lamar Jackson decides what he wants to do with his life.
Ooh.
Yeah.
You think LeBron's gonna predict it beforehand and tell everyone about it?
Absolutely,
of course,
absolutely. I'm gonna take my talents to Sun Valley and join the Cardinals. Like what? Why? Kyler's there too. Come on now.
They're just gonna trade the contracts. So Lamar,
there you go.
There you go. Great. But there we go. Thank you, Justin, for another outstanding round of games. That was a fantastic way to end Fact or Fiction. And, it's funny because people don't realize it, how we really weave things together on the show. If you need the best example possible, last week's Twas the Night Before Ransoms. But Justin weaved it perfectly there because who did you say, Justin? Just remind the people, what team did Lamar get hurt against?
The Broncos.
And what team fired their head coach this past week?
The Broncos.
Ladies and gentlemen, Nathaniel just couldn't hack it. I probably should have had his first name in the lower ticker, but irregardless. Nevertheless, the Broncos fired Nathaniel Hackett. A move that we probably saw coming for a while now. That was probably going to happen. I mean, so Rick, another head coach, gone via our hot seat meter. Or this might be the first one. Although, Justin was calling Matt Rule's firing the entire season.
Yes.
So the show correctly predicted 2 coaches getting fired.
That's a fact. That is a fact.
So there we go. And we're waiting on the third one. But
well, Frank Reich would have been in the hot seat controversy as well.
True.
But,
so 3 coaches. We're waiting on number 4 now. So this coach is predicted 4 firings
that week.
Yeah. You picked a bad week to miss.
Exactly. So, but let's move on with our prognosticating easily coming true. The Broncos, they had all they could stand, and they couldn't stand no more after getting absolutely shellacked by the Los Angeles Rams, 51-14, which ended with a pick 6 on Brett Rippon of all people, going back the other way and showing how much discord was really sown into that Broncos locker room. Nathaniel Hackett finally got fired. To say the very least, we expected this, especially with the Walton family, like having just taken over this season, how much money they had to buy that dang team and how much money they obviously have to know that they have to run it. This is not a team that is going to be shy with spending money. Like this, Walmart owns the Broncos basically, which is kind of funny to have that technically, but they have the money and they can afford to burn a little bit of money here if it means getting rid of a guy that he did not do a good job in any way, shape, or form. So he gets fired. The interim head coach for the last 2 weeks of the season for the Denver Broncos. We'll get to that in a couple of moments here. I think Rick will probably be able to tell that story better than most could. But Justin, I'll throw it over to you first with the news. So Nathaniel Hackett obviously getting fired. We know the season is dead for the Broncos, and I don't think there's much to take from them over the last 2 weeks. Let's look a little bit forward for the Broncos for this firing. What path can they go down this upcoming offseason now that they fired him? And also any comments you have about just how terrible his tenure was.
I mean, he clearly just wasn't the right guy for the job. He might be an excellent coordinator. I know he's a young guy. They brought him there because they thought that they could lure Aaron Rodgers there, and it didn't work. They went out, they got their consolation prize, and that didn't work either. And they were left in a really poor spot to begin with. They didn't do him any favors, and then he wasn't able to get the team prepared for games. It was clear. It was obvious. This is a team that for 16 weeks had the best defense in the NFL, let up the least amount of points. They would hold their teams under, a certain amount of yards of offense, and they couldn't score any points. There was a point where if they had scored 18 points a game in regulation, they would have been like 10-3. 18 points a game in regulation is like the fourth worst offense in the NFL at the moment. It's bad. So that's how poor they were on offense after trading multiple first-round picks and signing a guy to $250 million. That's not okay. I know that there were some injuries and stuff, but they clearly weren't prepared. And that Rams game, I mean, it's not like the Rams were lighting the world on fire. They're starting Baker Mayfield. It's like their third or fourth starting quarterback of the year, and they got just completely shellacked. So it makes sense. What I think the Broncos need to do now is, one, let's get some wins under the belt. And I know it doesn't mean anything, but a couple of wins after your coach gets fired, you could rally and you could have something to build upon going into the offseason would be humongous, especially because it doesn't matter what draft pick they have. They don't own it. It goes to the Seahawks. So if they can really get Russ going in the last 2 games, he played okay in that Chiefs game. Let's see if we can protect that offensive line. And Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton should be running all over that field. And Russ is, for better or worse, one of the most prolific deep ball throwers we've ever seen in the league. He just has this ability to drop it in the bucket that we've seen several times. I know Jurg is cringing. So get that going. Try and scheme these guys open. And then you got to find a coach that can scheme Russell Wilson the right way. Because for all of his talent and stuff, I think you're seeing a guy outside of a system that really worked for him for 10 years. And now all of a sudden he's out of it. And everyone's like, why can't he do the same thing? It's a different game. He's playing a different way. So they need to really get back to the basics and stop trying to outsmart yourself. Get the team going in a positive direction, and then find a coach that can keep that positive momentum and really get Russ. Because again, the defense isn't the issue here. The offense has to get going. So, I mean, you all know the name that they're saying. Maybe he's the guy, maybe he's not. But they get someone offensive in there, get someone who could really scheme Russ the correct way.
Yeah, a certain guy who's already putting a coaching staff together and sees the Walton family with all that money and be like, hey, boys, you want to get paid?
There ain't no coaching salary cap.
Oh, well, ain't that the truth, all things considered. So, Rick, throw it over to you. Thoughts about Hackett being fired, what we just discussed about, he who shall not be named at the present moment to build up the tension on who could be the next head coach, and also who their current interim head coach is.
I mean, it's great because 7 hours ago there was a report on FanSided that the Broncos' first practice didn't go as well as they hoped it would under the new head coach. That they hated the fact they were doing an all-pad practice. Like, this is what you guys do. Their interim head coach is Jerry Rosberg, and if that's not a name that you NFL fans know, I mean, I don't blame you because the guy's never held a head coach position in his life. He wasn't even the head coach at a high school. He was an assistant at Shanley High School in his first job in 1979. But he was brought in because basically he was the guy that was going to help with the timing because Nathaniel Hackett was kind of getting lost in the shuffle of the play clocks and the game clocks and all of that. So Denver turned to Jerry Rosburg. Here's the problem with that. Rosburg retired in 2019 from the Ravens after like 4 decades of coaching and said, I'm good, I'm done. And now all of a sudden he gets this call to come join this fledgling, flailing duck of a head coach in Nathaniel Hackett. And then Justin, I think we talked about this in the text. Justin said the Cowboys couldn't get anybody with head coaching experience on their roster. No, because they fired everybody in 2022. They had Pat Shurmur as an offensive coordinator. They fired him after their last head coach got fired. And the only guy with coaching experience was Dom Capers. Do you really want Dom Capers, who coached the Houston Texans in their first 3 years, to lead your team in the final 2 games of the season? So I get what they're doing, but this has been a classic example of nerds not knowing what they're doing with searching for coaches. Because Nathaniel Hackett was the guy that was, this is Aaron Rodgers' offense, and this is all of that. This is great. And it didn't work at all. And it was just atrocious. This is a team that was built on defense. And to be fair, their defense was okay, in games that they held everybody pretty close. It's just when you're holding teams low on defense, you want the offense not to match. You want the offense to surpass and outperform. And there were 2 early death knells. Number 1 was that first week when you run at the clock for a 64-yard field goal. I get it. You got Brandon McManus, but come on. This isn't the McManus of old. This isn't Jason Elam or Matt Prater. This is this year's Brandon McManus, who can't kick from 64 yards out. Number 2, the Thursday night game that was 9-9 going into overtime at home when 20,000 of your fans left at the end of regulation. You're just not doing very well when it comes to coaching football and winning games that way. I mean, it was bad. It was bad from the start. It was bad from the finish. And this game, the fighting on the sideline, the lack of cohesion on the offense, Russell Wilson being Russell Wilson, which is terrible. Listen, when Patrick Starr calls you out on commentary, you're not a good quarterback. I'm sorry, you're not. And this offense was just awful. So, it needed to happen. It's just, to Justin's point, they need wins. They're going to Kansas City, then they're hosting the Chargers. Maybe you get a win against the Chargers at home to end the year, but Kansas City is still playing for something. So I don't think they're getting the win there.
It's not even that they need wins. Score. Be explosive. Be competitive. If they scored 18 points a game in regulation for this season, they'd be 12-4.
Yeah, but Russell Wilson spends all his time talking to footballs instead of talking to his offensive line. So I mean, I don't know what to tell you.
Listen. You could blame Russ. You could blame whoever. There needs to be a change there. Yes. And again, I understand maybe Russ has more power here than he did in Seattle, and that affects the kind of
that was a mistake from the first onset
that they're running.
Yeah,
but I mean, the guy's been playing football since he's got to know something with offensive game plan.
Does he?
Yeah, at some point, you're a head coach. You have to put in the correct scheme and have the guys run the correct routes to make Russ look good, whether you like him or not.
But now I'm starting to wonder if he audibled it for the Seahawks in the Super Bowl. It was going to be a run play to Marshawn, and then he decided to throw the ball instead.
I don't think it was. But.
Probably not, but, we can I mean, he was only a third-year quarterback. Yeah. No, Rick bringing up the point of, Nathaniel Hackett came in with the grandeurs of, ran this offense with Aaron Rodgers. The problem is, buddy, you got to have Aaron Rodgers to make the offense work. It was like when Adam Gase was Peyton Manning's offensive coordinator. It's like, hey, we did this Peyton Manning. It's like, well, yeah, you don't have Peyton Manning. You have Brian Tannehill in Miami.
Did you hear the stories about him, Adam Gase coming in and calling plays and Peyton Manning going, we're not fucking doing that. We're going to run this.
Well, first off, swear jar. A. B, Peyton Manning's done that a lot.
I didn't say it was Peyton.
Still,
right?
In the 40 episodes that we've done this, I have not sworn once.
You're the last bastion of
which is amazing when you consider the fact that I'm a sailor when it comes to off air.
It's so true. Yeah. It's so true. We know.
My God.
Oh my God.
You're the good Catholic boy on the show.
Hey.
And what's wrong with that?
You reminded me of when I went to Catholic high school for 6 years of my life.
Oh God. All right. Well, that will be the tell-all episode of the show in the future.
Yeah.
But Well, first of all, Peyton Manning does that to everybody. There was like I remember this because Pat McAfee told this story. Because majority of the Peyton Manning stories I know are via Pat McAfee. But I think it was Austin Coley's rookie or sophomore season, and he dropped a pass on a route, and Peyton Manning told him to get off the field. But the coaching staff was telling him to get back on the field. So he turned around to go back on the field, and Peyton Manning looked at him and told him, "You're going to stay off the field." And he looked at the coaching staff and said, "He's not getting back on the field." Like that's who Peyton Manning is. He was the sheriff for a reason. If you can't perform for him, you're getting the hell off the field.
And Peyton Manning warranted that kind of respect and grandeur because it's Peyton Manning. Russell Wilson and Adam Gase are not Peyton Manning.
Oh yeah, they don't deserve to shine Peyton Manning's cleats on game day. Like they're not in that class.
They should shine Cooper Manning's cleats on game day.
And even Cooper would be like, "Yeah, it's not that good of a job." Anyways, but like, yeah, the season was just an absolute train wreck. One that I've thoroughly enjoyed throughout it, of course, proving what I've been saying about Russell Wilson for like the last 3 years. So thank you. But no, like I'm with Justin where you need to bring in a coach to maximize what Russell Wilson can still do. And let's be real here. You want to talk about a quarterback that's shorter but can still get his passes off and still be pretty accurate if possible. All signs point to Sean Payton being the next head coach of the Denver Broncos. It's kind of obvious.
Yeah, but you know what the most hilarious thing about that is? The most hilarious thing about that is who is his defensive coordinator? Vic Fangio.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Who was the head coach of the Broncos? It's like you want me, you got to bring a guy back.
To be fair, they didn't oust him because they hated him. They just felt that they should have gone with someone else. And to be fair, they also screwed that up. So
how many years was Vic Fangio there?
3.
Looking that up right now. Vic Fangio was there for 3 years.
He was there for 3. But the thing was, like, they never were.
He was the guy they fired to get Hackett in.
Yeah. It's funny to think that maybe they would have been respectable if they would have kept Vic Fangio because he was a pretty good coach. He kept his team in the games towards the end of last season. They were out of it within the last 2 weeks, but they were close. You know, they had some really good competitive games against good teams.
Justin, they would have been respectable. Justin, they would have been respectable if they had traded for Geno Smith and not Russell Wilson for the Seahawks.
All they needed was a quarterback. But you know what? Look. You have to give the respect here to Pete Carroll. I mean, I'm not taking anything away from Geno Smith, but that system that they run is excellent. They've really revamped that offensive line. They're playing very well, and they know how to keep teams on their heels.
Yeah.
Their offensive play calling is as good as any team in the league.
Yeah.
And you're seeing it with a guy who's not making mistakes. He's a veteran player who's not making mistakes, and it's resulting in a great year.
But I know, and I give credit to Pete Carroll, but part of that ties into what I'm saying. That quarterback that they have under center is not an egomaniac who thinks everything needs to revolve around him.
But he's not
Mr. Limited. He doesn't.
You know what would have been real nice
terrible
for Pete Carroll? What would have been real nice for Pete Carroll if he did that in the 90s when he was coaching the Jets instead of learning how to do it at USC into the 2000s. Like, where was that in the 90s, Pete? Come on!
It could have been worse. He could have figured it out with the Patriots the year before. So
yeah, that's true.
Bitter Jets fans aside here, we can all firmly agree Nathaniel Hackett, terrible tenure with the Denver Broncos. Sean Payton probably going to get phone calls here very soon. And Nathaniel Hackett, where is he going to end up? Who knows? Literally, I could see the Packers rehiring him. I could actually see it happening, but we'll see.
More coaches in the modern era have been fired
before the end of their
first season. 2 of them were in the last 2 years.
Beautiful. And this one was strictly like on the field incompetence. The jerk from last year was because he was a less than ideal human being overall. Mm-hmm. But I've said my piece about Urban Meyer a number of times on different podcasts. But yeah, so Nathaniel Hackett, my boy, you just couldn't hack it. Bye. We're not going to miss you. We're not going to miss you. And the Broncos probably – I mean, I will probably give Denver this credit. Do you think that they drove him to the airport because they're like, we'll help you get out of here?
No, I think they did what all good Catholic Coloradans did and said, let the good Lord hit you where the good Lord split you.
Oh, Lord.
So I think they paid him enough money to get an Uber.
More than just an Uber.
Lyft. It's a Lyft. Come on now.
Exactly. First class as well.
Yeah.
You got to pay for that.
Ridiculous.
So, all right. So, moving on from Nathaniel Hackett, finally, both for this season and maybe for the podcast's history, who knows? Record-breaking seasons? Maybe. We were probably going to talk about this like a week or 2 ago, but various circumstances have forced us to not be able to do so, ladies and gentlemen. But 2022 NFL season technically 2022-2023 because last 2 weeks technically happened in January 2023. Irregardless, the 2022 NFL regular season has been entertaining to say the least, but it has also brought on some very good performances from players. And our resident stat keeper / bookkeeper / podfather is here, and he has brought us a massive list. I think he said before that we recorded like it was 18 records, Rick, that are one has already been broken, somewhere in the vicinity of it. Some are long shots, but who knows what the heck can happen.
Yep.
Let's go through it. This is kind of a reverse of what the first segments are, where Rick just gives us the list, and kind of now me and Justin are taking the role of, do we think it could happen? So
yeah,
let's go through it.
So there will be some that are just going to be a quick yes or no, obviously, because they're going to be a little lesser to discuss. But I will tell you this. One record that has already been broken this year, one of Jurg's favorite records, rookie punting yards in a season. That would be Titans punter Ryan Stonehouse broke Dave Zastudil's record from 1997. Stonehouse, after Thursday night, now has 4,613 punting yards this season. Remember back in the day when we talked about another guy called Punt God, and we said he might be better? Well, clearly it was Stonehouse. But on Stonehouse, his discussion, he also has a chance to break a record that is 82 years old, and that is for punting yards in a season by average. Back in 1940, Slingin' Sammy Baugh, who was a quarterback / punter, had the most punting yards average in a season with 51.4. Ryan Stonehouse has one more game to play, and he's averaging 53 flats. So that's something that I think we could say could probably fall, I think, pretty consistently. There's one other punting record, and it's average net punt yards. Johnny Hecker's mark in 2013 was 44.23. Stonehouse is third right now on this list, but it's actually Tommy Townsend of the Chiefs, who has a 45.5 average net punt yards record. So that's something that I think is pretty cool. And on the punting, there's a mark for Justin and I to kind of laugh at. Fair catches in a season. Jeremy Curley of the Jets holds the record from 2012 with 36. And wouldn't you know it, a Jet is closing on the record as well. Braxton Berrios has 27 fair catches this year. So maybe. But now let's actually
Jets defense is going to have to make a lot of stops for that.
Yes. But now let's have an actual discussion about possibles. Gentlemen, sacks in a season, regular season. The record is 22.5 by Michael Strahan and TJ Watt. The current leader this season is Nick Bosa at 17.5. So he's 5 to tie, 5.5 to break. Bosa has had multiple sacks in 4 games this season, including a 3-sack performance once. Does Nick Bosa break the sack record?
I'll go. I think no. I think no. I think Nick Bosa's great. I think he's dominant. He might win Defensive Player of the Year here, in all honesty. But I don't think he breaks it. I think he gets close. I think he gets to like 21, 22, like in there, 21 and a half also technically. But I don't think he breaks it. Kind of like you mentioned, like I think the 49ers defense is so amazing as a whole. He doesn't necessarily need to have an amazing game for that to happen. And who are the last 2 teams they're facing? They're facing Washington this week. Or no, they just faced Washington. Who the hell are their last 2 opponents?
The Raiders this week
Right.
and the Cardinals next week.
Which means Jarrett Stidham and David Blau.
Okay, I might have to take that back, actually. Maybe for reconsider.
So the only thing that I think would stand in the way of a very real possibility is if both the Eagles and the Vikings win this week.
Right.
They're
they
much
might
locked into the 3 seed. So it might be worth resting a Joey Bosa who's had injury concerns in the past.
Well, Joey's on the Chargers.
Nick,
he's really confused.
I said Nick the first time.
I know you did.
Yeah.
You did.
We know.
But yeah, it's so I don't necessarily think he's going to break the record. I do think the Eagles will probably clinch this week. I know that they could maybe move up, but I don't see them overtaking the Vikings with this many few games left in the season. So I'm going to say no.
I think that's fair. I'll go back to kicking for 1 second because we mentioned the Raiders. Daniel Carlson has 9 field goals this season of 50 or more yards. The record is 10, set by Blair Walsh and Justin Tucker in various seasons. Now, if Carlson's going to break or tie this record, that means Jarrett Stidham has to get them into field goal range.
That's the key there.
So I don't think so, but interestingly enough, there are 4 guys that are tied with 8 50-plus yard field goals. This has been a really good year for kickers and punters, I think, this year. Let's go to rushing stats by a quarterback in a season. I'm going to give you both at the same time. Rushing yards by a quarterback in a season. The record is Lamar Jackson's 2019 campaign, his MVP season, where he rushed for 1,206 yards. Justin Fields is currently at 1,011 yards. So ruminate on that for a second while I tell you about the rushing touchdowns by a quarterback in a season. Cam Newton's 2011 season, 14 touchdowns. The current leader is Jalen Hurts with 13 touchdowns.
Oof.
So the question is really tied into, if the Eagles don't win in week 17, do you start Hurts in week 18 as well with a chance for the record plus the 1 seed on the line? And does Justin Fields get the rushing yards record?
I'll go first. Justin Fields, the last time he played the Lions, while it was in Chicago, he did rush for 147 yards and 2 touchdowns. So, yeah, I think that there's a very good chance that he breaks that record. I would probably take him to break that record, especially because odds are they'll be playing their starters in a meaningless game for Minnesota last week of the year in Chicago. So there's a good chance that he runs all over them again. As for the rushing touchdowns, no, I don't think you see Jalen Hurts for the rest of the year. He is doubtful this week. And all they need is for Gardner Minshew to take care of business against a Saints team that struggled and will, if with a loss, likely be eliminated. And with a Tampa Bay win, will be eliminated. So I don't see them playing Hurts the rest of the year. I think they give him a long break. They're going to let his shoulder get right, and he'll have a bye in the first week of the playoffs so that he is fully healthy for the divisional round.
Agreed. Similar to what we talked about with Nick Bosa, where he's probably going to get sat depending on how things play out. If the Eagles handle business like we're all expecting them to this week, there's no reason to play Hurts. So I would say the touchdowns will stand like as is. Cam Newton will keep his record for 1 season longer, which the wild part is 2011. I'm pretty sure that was his rookie season. So rookie Cam Newton, peak Cam Newton apparently. Well, that is MVP year, but the good for you, Cam. You get to hold that a little bit longer. In terms of yards, Fields.
He needs less than 200 yards to break the record.
Yeah, I think he could do it. I think the Bears have figured out how to play him, and that's been the biggest thing that we've argued on this podcast of like you need to play to his style, and Eberflus has made the adjustment, which has been a big part of why he is going to get a little bit more leeway, especially from me in Chicago, because he finally played to your quarterback strengths. Yeah, I'll say he breaks it because Justin mentioned it. He's ran over Detroit's defense before, and I think the Lions are starting to look a little bit shaky. And the Vikings are probably going to put their bench players out there. And starting caliber quarterback versus backup defensive players, you should be able to make something happen there. So I'll give the benefit of the doubt for young Justin Fields and say that he'll break the record.
All right, let's keep with quarterbacks, but let's throw to their passing abilities now. Tom Brady currently leads the league with 29.53 pass completions per game. The record's 29.44, held by Drew Brees. So Brady's in line for that. But I'm going to talk about total completions and attempts because this is a very interesting story here. There are 2 quarterbacks this season who are in line to break the current passing attempts and passing completions records. Passing attempts for a season, Matt Stafford in 2012 had 727 passes for the Lions. And completions in the season last year, Tom Brady had 485. So, knowing what you know now, Tom Brady has 443 completions, so he's 42 off of his current record. Justin Herbert has 431 completions. So knowing that in mind, attempts, Tom Brady has 671 throws this season. Herbert has 634 throws this season.
Oof.
So the question is, Brady or Herbert, who breaks the record first and who holds the record at the end of the regular season? Because both offenses, you got to think are going to throw the ball a lot. especially in his last two games. The Chargers have nothing to play for, really, because they're already locked to a wild card, but seeding purposes and keeping that offense going. Meanwhile, Tom Brady's got everything to play for, a division title, a playoff berth, and the potential regaining of Gisele's hand in marriage, which is never going to happen. So
yeah, probably not.
2 out of 3 ain't bad. So Brady or Herbert?
So let me tell you why it's Herbert. One, Herbert's weapons are performing better at this point, which is half the battle. And two, I disagree with that because the Chargers will have 2 meaningful games, and the Bucks, if they win this week, only have 1. If the Bucks win this week, it's clinched. They can't move up. They can't move down. It's done. If the Chargers win this week and Baltimore wins this week or loses this week, they can flip. There's a realistic chance that they can flip, and that is a major, major difference because you're talking about either playing at this point Cincinnati or Jacksonville. So it is much more imperative that the Chargers get hot and stay hot and really ride the hot hand into the playoffs. I expect Keenan Allen to continue his resurgence after coming back from injury. I expect Mike Williams to have a bunch of catches and Austin Eckler to have a bunch of catches. I would say Justin Herbert is going to be the guy there.
So I think Brady could break the attempts because that Buccaneers running game has been terrible. And the only way that they're going to be able to really win this next Panthers game is probably going to have to be a lot through the air. But kind of like Justin said, I think a big factor of it is going to be like if they don't have anything to play for after this week, assuming they handle business and beat the Carolina Panthers, do you play Brady in that last week? Do you maybe try to make the argument of, yes, we have the spot clinched, but do we try to get this offense some semblance of competent going into the last week of the season, going into the playoffs?
Speaking of run game, though, I have a question because it affects it. I saw that Ryan Jansen, Pro Bowl center for the Bucks, was designated to return from IR. Is he active this week? Is he going to play? Does anyone know that?
I have not seen.
To get that run game going, it might open things up for Brady.
Ryan Jensen, Todd Bowles has said, and I quote, "We are not thinking about playing him in a game at this point."
Oof.
So it's looking more likely like he will be ready for the playoffs if they get there.
Yeah. Fair question, Justin. Very fair question. I say Brady can get the attempts potentially. I don't know about the completions. And
well, okay, so Brady is just 42 off the completions mark.
42.
Herbert is 54 off the completions mark.
Between 2 games, if he's playing both, Herbert can definitely break that.
Okay. All right. And then attempts, Brady is 56 off the mark. Herbert, much to his credit, actually, is 93 off the mark, which means that he's clearly more accurate than Brady has been all year.
Yeah, not surprised.
Yeah. And speaking on completion percentage, one quick little note here. This is not either Brady or Herbert, but Drew Brees' record of 2018 of 74.4% completion percentage was under duress, but I don't think any longer. There's only one quarterback in the NFL with an over 70% completion percentage this year. That's Geno Smith at 70.7%.
It's gone down actually recently.
It has gone down, yeah.
In the last couple years, games.
Come on, Geno.
Yeah. So, keeping with passing, this was the record that started my thought about this. Passing yards in a season. Peyton Manning in 2013 threw for 5,477 yards. The current leader in the locker room at 4,720 yards is Patrick Mahomes.
Oh, no.
Now, that means that he needs 757 yards in the final 2 games to tie Peyton Manning's record. For any mere mortal quarterback, I would probably say no. But Patrick Mahomes, what do we think?
See, it's rough because the thing is Mahomes can throw for 5 touchdowns, but only have thrown for like 220 yards. Legit, like it's the weirdest thing in the world. And then at that point, they're not going to air out the ball anymore. They're just going to run the ball.
But you know at that point, we've seen him throw for 500 yards in 1 touchdown.
So. Very true. I was just about to say, you know what? Because I want to see it happen. I'll say Mahomes does it. I'll say he breaks the record. Just stick it to the Broncos even more to have them lose that record this season along with everything that's happened. Heck yeah, give me that. Yes, I'll say Mahomes breaks it.
So here's the thing. He plays a tough defense in the Broncos that have nothing to lose and everything to gain by just beating up on Patrick Mahomes this week.
Wait, is the game in Denver?
No, it's an Arrowhead.
It's an Arrowhead? Oh,
It's
an Arrowhead.
Yeah. They're in Arrowhead, and then they play in Vegas.
What
Now,
does
the
it
last
affect
time they
Mahomes?
played Vegas, it was a shootout, but Mahomes didn't have a ton of yards. He only had 292 yards, but he had 4 touchdowns. So it's interesting. I'm going to say he doesn't do it just for sake of being logical. It's a lot of yards. If it was like 600 yards, I'd say, all right, I'm going to lean towards him doing it. I think over 700 is a little much.
Yeah.
If anyone could do it, I'd put it on Money Boy Mahomes.
I'm not betting against it. All I'm saying is I don't think it happens.
You're not placing a bet.
I'm not putting money on it.
What's funny then is, and these are the last few sets that we'll go through, is that we mentioned Mahomes. Well, Travis Kelce is his main target, and he's got some records as well that could possibly fall in his favor. But passing receptions, we'll go first, and we'll go rapid fire with these 3, yes or no. By a wide receiver in a season, Michael Thomas's record is 149 from 2019. Justin Jefferson's at 123. Yes or no? 26 catches in 2 games.
No.
Okay. Zach Ertz in 2018, the most passing receptions by a tight end, 113. Travis Kelce, 97.
Yes.
Christian McCaffrey, receptions by a running back, 2019, 116. Austin Eckler, 99.
Yes.
Okay. Now, the last 2, receiving yards by a tight end. Travis Kelce holds the record from 2020, that COVID-riddled season, with 1,416 receiving yards. He's also in first, the tight end, 1,257 yards. Let's take a moment to appreciate the greatness that is Travis Kelce, first and foremost. But he is less than 200 yards from breaking his own record. But he's a tight end playing in Patrick Mahomes' system.
But I technically have to say yes, because if I'm assuming Mahomes is going to get like 800 yards over the next 2 games, then Kelce has to be a big part of that. So I think because I said yes to that one, I got to say yes to this one.
Justin?
What does he need? Needs 200 yards?
He needs, it is 159.
159? Yeah, I think he'll get it.
Okay. Now the last one.
He might get 1,500. He might get 1,500.
The last one is receiving yards by a wide receiver in a season. Now remember, we had talked about this in the preseason with Devontae Adams being the first 2,000-yard receiver potentially. Well, that's fallen by the wayside.
And in our mid-season.
40 yards in the last 2 games.
Yes. So there are 2 players who are within striking distance of the record, currently held by Hall of Fame wide receiver Calvin Johnson, who in 2012 had 1,964 receiving yards.
God, he was so good.
He was amazing. Now, one of these candidates is hurt by the fact that his quarterback is hurt. That is Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
Tyreek Hill is at 1,632 receiving yards. So that would be about 332 yards he would need to tie Calvin Johnson's record in 2 games. Now, granted, that's the Patriots and the Jets. So you got to think that Sauce Gardner is going to be marking him in the Jets game. Does he have a big game against the Patriots this week?
Probably.
And would that put him in striking distance for the record?
So I think, because I'd have to double check the exact number. He still put up at least 130 yards when Teddy Bridgewater started against, I think it was the Vikings. So it's actually been proven that he can still perform even though Tua is not in the game. But and this is the credence that I give to Sauce Gardner for being as amazing as he is. I think that's just way too much to overcome, and I don't think Tyreek Hill's breaking the record. It's very similar to last season. Cooper Kupp was getting close and close the whole year, but it's those last couple games. When you have off nights, it takes you out of the hunt for the record truly. That's so much to overcome. He basically needs to put up like back-to-back 170-yard games. And if someone could do it, it could be him, but I don't know if he's doing that on both defenses back-to-back.
I was going to say, look at who he's playing. He's playing good defenses.
Yep.
And he doesn't have a quarterback.
The final name on this record list needs 208 yards to tie Calvin Johnson's record. So that's 104 average per game. But needs 244 yards total to become the first wide receiver with 2,000 receiving yards in a season. That is Justin Jefferson. So does he get Calvin Johnson's record, subsequently, does he then get 2,000 yards? No, keep in mind, he has to average 122 yards per game to get to 2,000 on the nose.
I think if he has a massive game against who are they facing this week?
They have the Packers this week.
If he gets within striking distance, and I don't just mean he gets like the 100 whatever, like if he has like 130, 140, 150 yard game, I think yes, because what's his name? Why am I forgetting the previous head coach? Mike Zimmer didn't let him break Randy Moss's single season Vikings record last year, that old curmudgeon he was. I think Kevin O'Connell, if he just sits down with Justin Jefferson and JJ just tells him, give me 3 quarters to try to break the record. If he's in striking distance, I think he'll let him do it. If they let him play that final game, I think he will break that, and I think he will go over 2K yards.
JJ 2K, Justin?
And if he does, my bad, Justin. If he does, if you don't give him the MVP award for being the first ever 2,000-yard wide receiver, I'm done caring about awards with this.
And who called that? Stupid. And who said something like that? I think it was me. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say he doesn't do it. I'm gonna say it's a meaningless game. The last week of the year, and he. But again, you know what? Yeah, no, they'd probably beat the Packers this week. If they beat the Packers this week,
who do they end with? They end with Chicago.
They end with Chicago.
Oh,
but they're still fighting for the one
they have
seed.
The tiebreaker over San Francisco or no?
San Fran would have the 1. Well, no, they have one more win, so they would, if they win out, they will be the 1 seed.
Yeah, so they have to. The Vikings have to win out to keep home field advantage at least through the divisional round.
Yes.
Maybe. I'm gonna change my answer. I'm gonna say yes. I think he does do that. He's their offense. They go as he goes, and he's been fantastic this year. It's not unheard of for him to go for 120 yards a game in the last 2 games.
122 per game the last 2 games. Yeah,
we've seen him do that before.
Yeah.
Did he go for 170 in a game this season at least once?
I think the Bills game. I think he went off the chain for a lot.
Yeah, he just completely took the game over.
Yeah.
So yeah, I could see him. I could see him doing that.
Well, it'll be a fun last 2 weeks to see who breaks what record and who gets close to what. As I said, we already know 1 record has fallen this year. Probably 2 in the punting category will fall this year. So we'll see how the rest shake out. But that's an interesting look through to see. And there were some that, rushing yards, there's a fun one, actually. It's lowest interception percentage, minimum 200 attempts, though. So Brian Hoyer, I forget what year it was, had a 0. There's currently a quarterback with 0 interceptions and 89 pass attempts, I believe. Sam Darnold.
Oh, God.
Now, again, he would need to throw for over 100 times in the next 2 games, which only would happen if Carolina beats Tampa Bay this week. Because Carolina doesn't win this week, there's nothing to play for next week.
When you're also assuming that Sam Darnold can go another 100+ passes without throwing an interception, which is a task.
That I was kind of more leaning away from talking about that part, but yeah, that's accurate. Yes.
Yeah. So it's a nice thought overall. But what a list of records! Outstanding job, Rick, for the fact that you compiled that together and kept updated, because we had this idea for the last couple of weeks, so we had to keep checking the stats and keep the updates. Outstanding job by you, good sir. So thank you for that. But the bookkeeping is not done, ladies and gentlemen. This is the beauty of doing a live show. Our pick challenge is back. You guys know the motto of the show: fun, football, chaos. The fun and the football have gone. Now we're leaning ever so closely to more chaos, but there's still plenty of fun in it as well. Our hashtag SAOC pick challenge, the Sports Agents of Chaos pick challenge. For those of you that are new to the program, brief rundown. Myself, Justin, and Rick all pick 4 games from a 4-point to a 1-point scale. 4-point, our first pick being the most confident that we are. We lock it in all the way down to our 1-pointer, which is we're not the most confident in the result due to various circumstances, whether it be the inclement weather for that game, who's starting, who's playing, who's not playing, teams involved, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We all have to pick at least 1 upset pick. The lowest your upset game can go needs to be your 2-pointer. You cannot pick a 1-point game as your upset game as your upset game. You can go for a tie, but you have to use your 4-point pick for that. But for doing so, your 4-point pick will be upgraded to a 5-point pick if you go with a tie. So there's that little incentive right there. I don't think anyone has gone for a tie so far this season. So there's still 2 more weeks where it could happen. I think I said just about everything. Order is based off of what the standings are to this point of the season, which Rick will get to momentarily. And if you get a perfect week, you get a +1 at the end of your point total as well. So there's that. And as I said at the top of the show, Rick will now tell us the records. But we officially have a placement in the standings, ladies.
We do. Because there are 2 weeks remaining and because Sandoval, the Deer, can only play 7 games, the highest point total that he could get is 17. He is behind me by 20. Therefore, Sandoval finishes in last place this year. That being said, as he should. That being said, I am 25 points behind Justin, who's in second place, and I cannot catch up. Therefore, I am locked into the third place. And as you both know, the Cold Strange jersey is on its way. I will be wearing that on the Super Bowl show.
Is that 69?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is. Now, we've had a bit of a run of sorts. Jurg has had 2 perfect weeks in a row. He's on an 8-game winning streak.
Let's go.
And that has put him at 106 points for the year. Justin is in second place, close, but not so close behind at 97. So, Justin, you need a big week this week. I am at 72, and Sandoval's at 52. Now, the advantage of me being at 72 means I can kind of go a little crazy with my picks this week because I don't really have a dog in the fight. I just want to see the world burn. And so what I did was I went to another website called NFLPlayoffScenarios.com, and it's giving us all the scenarios, including elimination scenarios for the season, for the week. With my 4-point pick, I am going to take the upset that was flexed to Sunday night because I believe that other results in the earlier part of the day will allow this team to stay alive, and that will be the Pittsburgh Steelers taking down their bitter divisional rivals, the Lamar-less Baltimore Ravens, on Sunday night. So give me the Steelers. This is a team on a mission. This is the team that can crash the party, and it would be hilariously amazing. That now, the scenarios for Pittsburgh are: if they lose, they're out. If Miami wins, they are out. So that tips my hand as to what I might be doing with Miami's pick. So that's why I'm going Steelers at 4. And
as was foretold
the show, Mike Tomlin is a phenomenal head coach.
The Wi-Fi struggles.
Yes. As I said, Mike Tomlin, friend of the show, is the greatest coach in the world.
If we do have a first guest, it would be awesome if it was Mike Tomlin.
It would be great, yes. So that is my 4-point pick. Mike Tomlin, Steelers over the Ravens.
That's awesome. By the way, real quick, just for context, ladies and gentlemen, the idea of going with an upset pick, we are going based off of the lines that we see on ESPN when they show the games. And those lines are brought to us by the friends at
Caesar Sportsbook.
Thank you, Justin. So we move on. Justin. So Rick made his first pick. Justin, it is your pick now. Rick is basically giving you and me like a free fall to like get all the like big.
Oh, I'm going carte blanche with my upsets this week, guys. I mean, come on now.
I love it.
Let you guys have your fun.
Chiefs, Broncos. Chiefs.
Okay, in Kansas City.
Chiefs, yeah. We learned about 3 weeks in that I would never take the Broncos again.
I was going to say that's a very, very interesting upset pick there.
Chiefs.
You know, you're 9 points behind, Justin. Just want to let you know.
Chiefs.
I think we've all learned the hard way not to pick the Broncos.
Yes, we all have. All right. And because this is also snake format, Jurg will get the 4 and the 3-point pick.
Yes. So for my 4-pointer, this team, I'm riding a hot hand, and you know what? I'll keep riding them until I can't no more. Give me the 49ers for my 4-point pick. They still have something to play for. I think they're still going to go guns blazing against this Raiders team who started Jarrett Stidham. They're starting Jarrett Stidham. Oh, my God.
No. The funnier thing about it is they're starting Jarrett Stidham, and they're still in the playoff hunt.
Oh, my God, yeah.
Why all of a sudden now you want to see what this rookie quarterback can do for you?
By the way, I shout out to my boy Bars, who I've done a bunch of podcasts with, he actually sent me a clip before we did the show of Josh Jacobs doing like an interview. I don't know, like if it was this week or maybe the week before, or maybe it was leading into this game. Josh Jacobs basically like looked like he was done with the Raiders. The Raiders are probably going to lose their starting quarterback and running back this offseason because I think it's fairly obvious like a lot of changes are going to happen to that team.
Can't imagine Devontae Adams doesn't demand a trade in that situation.
I would think he would too.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's going to be a very interesting offseason to say the very least.
Now we did also say the Raiders are money poor, right? So could they literally trade these off for just cash to
maybe
get their coffers, back up?
I don't know if those trades get approved.
I don't think so. Yeah.
I mean, well, not cash, but draft picks. You could just trade these guys for draft picks and like salary players. Like, you never know.
See that.
So 49ers are my 4-point pick, and let me go back to let me just make sure I'm not missing a game here because I have my 3-point pick, but I want to make sure I'm like picking the right team here. Just make sure I like everything. Okay, all right, we're good. My 3-point pick. Look, I'm willing to go with this. Eagles over the Saints. The Eagles without Jalen Hurts hung 30 points on the Cowboys defense. Come on now. They're going to beat the Saints. Like, I'm fully confident in that. So 49ers for my 4-pointer, Eagles for my 3-pointer. Back to you, Justin.
Okay. I am going to take the Chargers. Playing a Rams team that's got nothing to play for. They're coming off a big win. And let's face it, like I said before, Chargers need a win. There's a huge difference between the 5 seed and the 6 seed in this league, in the AFC this year. So,
yeah.
Let's go Chargers.
I way back in the ether, that was my one loss the Chargers had to the Rams when I said that they were going to go 16-1. Back in the ether. Yeah, how the world has changed, and that's why the jersey's coming my way. Thank you very much. At 3 points for myself, well, as I mentioned, I'm going to keep the trend of upsets going here. There's a team that has wronged me. There's a team that has done me quite dirty. And while I never like going with a guy who has done something so vile and heinous, what the Washington Commanders did is even worse.
Oh, my God.
Therefore, at 3 points, I am taking the Cleveland Browns to beat the Washington Commanders.
God damn it. That was actually going to be my upset.
And just knock them out here.
Wasn't getting to you.
No, you were going to pick that, Justin?
Now, at 2 points, as I mentioned to you, I am going all upsets here against my better judgment because there are games here that I should be taking if I was further in. But let's have some fun. Let's give you guys the games. Let's see what happens and, go from there. So, in the spirit of dash and recklessness that makes me the podfather that I am, let's go David Blau. Arizona over Atlanta at 2 points this week. Please and thank you. I think, well, here's my thing. If the Falcons were still in this game, in the divisional hunt, I would say that they would probably have a better chance. But the news that came out about J.J. Watt, I think, is going to inspire this Cardinals defense to play well. And I think that's going to help considerably with them. I think that that's going to be a big factor in their part. I mean, Atlanta's got a lot of weapons on offense, but Drake London can't hold on to the football. I think he's fumbled 2 times in critical situations over the last 2 weeks as a wide receiver with deep plays down the middle. So, I think that happens again. I think Arizona gets a win. I still think Cliff Kingsbury gets fired after 2 weeks, but let's go out on the high note if you're Arizona. Give me the Cardinals at 2.
Fair.
We're having fun, aren't we?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Tons of fun. All right, I think I'm gonna ride a hot hand here as well, Jurgen. And I'm gonna go with a home underdog that you wouldn't think would be an underdog with the way they've been playing over the last few weeks.
Oh, I know who you're going with.
They've been playing really well, and this could be an instrumental game in the AFC playoff picture due to seeding. Monday night, the Cincinnati Bengals happened to host the Buffalo Bills in what could be the biggest match of the year so far.
Yeah.
Between 2 of the best teams in the NFL. And as much as I want to toss it up because I could really see either team winning this game, I'm going to ride the hot hand. I'm going to say Cincinnati wins at home.
Interesting. There, which means, by the way, if Justin's picks plan out, then week 18, you've got Kansas City as the 1 seed, Cincinnati as the 2, with the head-to-head and Buffalo at the 3. That's interesting because to your point, then, if you're the Chargers, then you don't want to go to Buffalo. So it's very interesting.
Listen, any way this shakes out, if you're the Chargers, you don't want to play that third place team.
Yep. Nope. Not a chance. Not a chance.
If you're any team in the league, you don't want to play that third place.
Agreed.
Basically, that the third seed in the AFC is probably going to beat you by 14.
Yep.
Listen, if things stay the same, you could say that about the NFC too.
Yeah.
Very true. All right. Well, I don't know about the Vikings. All right, let's go.
Third seed right now is the 49ers. So,
well, true. All right. 2-point pick. My upset pick. I kind of alluded to this before. I think this team is going to win this game. Give me the Dolphins. The Patriots are favored by 2.5 points. I get it. 2 is out. It's Teddy Bridgewater starting, right? That's where I'm going with the Dolphins. All right, yeah. Teddy Bridgewater threw for 300+ yards the game that he was actually able to start and finish for them. Tyreek still did his thing. I'm sorry. The hoodie, Bill Belichick doesn't scare me anymore. He just doesn't. That team is incompetent amongst all. I'm not giving Mac Jones any credit, Rick. No.
No. But here's my thought. As we saw in the Jets game, all it takes is one well-placed hit by a Sauce Gardner or a Matthew Judon, and then you're going to Skylar Thompson.
Yeah, don't let it happen. That's all you got to do, Miami. Don't let it happen. I know you've struggled with that this season, but don't let your quarterback get concussed. That's all you got to do. That's all you got to do. So give me the Dolphins with my 2-point pick. And now my 1-point pick. All right. I'm just going through the schedule. Did anyone pick the Jaguars game yet?
No, that has not been picked.
Give me
the Texans. All right, you got it.
No.
Hey, they won last week. They're a 2-game winning streak. Let's go.
Look at that. No, because I know technically the Jaguars will let this go by the wayside if they want the AFC South, but at the same time, I feel like they just want to keep the momentum going. Give me the Jaguars in this one.
Okay.
So that completes my picks.
Okay, there's a couple of must-win games here for a few teams as we go down the line. There's just one that is a major game, and if they drop this game, it really puts them out of contention. I'm gonna go with the hometown team here, guys, and I'm gonna go with the New York Giants over the Indianapolis Colts.
Well, Big Richard did not have a good first game with the Colts. So, the Giants need that win to not muck up with an M, Justin, their playoff chances. I agree with you there. And that leaves me with a 1-pointer that it's not going to be an upset because I've run out of upsets that I normally pick for, but I think that's okay because I shocked the world by 4, 3, and 2. So unless I want to pull the ultimate swerve, now I know I said I would never do this again. So do I go against a pick that I've already made preseason for the theater and the drama of the upset? Yeah, you know what? Let's do it. 1-point pick, Carolina over Tampa Bay, please and thank you. Carolina needs this win. So does Tampa Bay, but Carolina needs a lot more. They will have a head-to-head lead, which will be interesting because that would mean that P.J. Walker and Sam Darnold have both beaten Tom Brady in the same season.
Which would be awesome.
That would be hilarious.
Can we just let's play, before we finish things off here, let's just play a little bit of a game here. If Panthers actually make the playoffs, I know you have to interview. How can you not give Steve Wilkes a run at things to be the full-time head coach? The fact that he dragged this sorry team to the playoffs. I know it's happened before where an interim coach comes in, still keeps them afloat. Like Bruce Arians did it for the Colts when Chuck Pagano was out for the season due to having to get chemotherapy, I think. And I know he did get a job that following season from the Cardinals. But I don't think that's going to be the case. I don't think anyone else would hire Steve Wilkes, and that's just me not having faith in any other NFL team that's going to end up firing their head coaches here. One of them, ironically, being the Arizona Cardinals here in a few weeks. Like, how is the Panthers? How can you not give Steve Wilkes a proper run? Like, if you're looking for a head coach to galvanize this team, how do you not go with the guy that literally just brought you to the playoffs? I don't trust Dave Tepper to keep him as the coach.
You know what, though? I believe that if Carolina does win out and they get to that playoff game, look, yes, they're going to be hosting Dallas, and it's not going to be a game that they're probably going to win, but they could fight through it. I think you look and see, because you have to know how the team was outside of the division, because the division's been trash. Yeah. So if Carolina puts up a good fight against Dallas in the wild card game, even if they lose, they put up a really good fight. They're in at the fourth quarter. Absolutely. Look, that's what got Taylor Heineke the Washington job, because Washington was not a factor in Tampa Bay in that game. They were not predicted to be there, and it wasn't a close game, but the way that Heineke just galvanized that team made him a factor. So I think it's the same thing. If Steve Wilkes gets Carolina to the playoffs and they play well against Dallas, if they win, even better. But if they don't, I think he still gets the job as long as it's a close game. Yeah. So, I mean, that's just my personal opinion on the matter there. Let me recap these picks as we go into Week 18. Jurg, on an 8-game win streak, goes San Francisco over Las Vegas as 4-point pick. Philadelphia over New Orleans at 3. Miami over New England at 2. And Jacksonville over Houston at 1. May you only get 1 point this week. Justin.
Thanks.
Justin goes Kansas City over Denver at 4 points. The Chargers over the Rams at 3. The Bengals over the Bills at 2. And the Giants over Indy at 1. May you get 8 points this week, because I don't know about the 2-point game. That's a that's a rough. The Cincinnati Buffalo one's tough. It's a toss-up.
I said it's a toss-up, but
yeah,
good team at home.
Yeah,
they should win. They beat the Chiefs at home.
Yeah, and I mean, Jurg, your picks if they go the reverse, would just create more chaos in Week 18, which we all love. So
I mean, I don't want that. No,
we do. Myself at 4 points in the week where I just didn't give a damn. Pittsburgh over Baltimore with an upset. Cleveland over Washington at 3 with an upset. Arizona over Atlanta at 2 with the upset. And Carolina over Tampa Bay at 1 with the upset.
Rick, have you had a perfect week this season?
No, of course
not.
If
this is your
I got close.
Week, I swear to God.
If this is my first perfect week, then I should know how to pick the rest of the way.
Only one person has had a perfect week so far.
No, Justin, you had one.
I don't think I did.
You did.
Are you sure?
Yeah, you did.
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Actually, to be fair, the 3 of y'all had perfect weeks. Sandoval's was a 1-gamer where he won and got 11 points. So technically, perfect week.
That counts.
It does.
In the lore of the show, that counts.
It does. And speaking of the deer, he is trying to win over some favor with you and me, Justin. More so you. He says that it's been a long, hard 17-week struggle, and he wishes that in the new year his resolution is to court your favor so that you and he can be friends and drinking buddies. And in the spirit of that nature, he is picking the Jets at 3 points over the Seattle Seahawks. Yes. At 2 points for an upset, he has decided that he hates Aaron Rodgers, doesn't want anything to do with him, thinks he's scum, and is going with the Vikings over the Packers in a 2-point upset. And then at one point in the game that doesn't really matter much to him because Lions and Bears, they both eat deer. He doesn't like either one of them, but he will go with Detroit to try and keep their playoff chances alive. So the Lions over the Bears at 1 point is the Deer's final pick of the 2022 calendar year. There you have it.
I will say, though, if his pick goes sideways and your pick is correct, Packers are looking prime for a playoff spot with one more win.
I mean, it's reasonable. It's a reasonable conjuncture, but
you know what happened the last time Aaron Rodgers threw 11 interceptions in a season and was the
Super Bowl.
The bottom seed.
I made this joke earlier this week. Not to you guys, but I made this joke earlier this week.
It could be very interesting. It could be very, very interesting to see if that's what happens. But, do we know about Christian Watson? I know he had some kind of back injury. I'm not sure if
he's either questionable or doubtful. I'm not sure which.
Yeah. So that could be a weapon that's down for him potentially.
Speaking of weapons that are down, and now that their picks are made, The Arizona Cardinals just announced DeAndre Hopkins will not play this week.
Ooh. Well, there goes my 2-point pick.
I was going to say, both of you two assumed that would have affected Rick's pick. He was going all upsets no matter what.
Listen, like I said, I have nothing to play for this week, so
Maybe
it's
he
all
would have
right.
won a different upset.
Maybe. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, at that point, I think the only one that I had remaining was Miami over New England, and I didn't want that to happen because death taxes and Tua's hurt and concussed. So why not?
So we'll see. We'll give it a week to table what conversations could be had about the playoffs next week. Will be interesting to say the very least. Will be the first episode of the new year is what we'll get to there. But we got to end off the year right. Ladies and gentlemen, following last week's "Twas the Night Before" Rhindsmiths, Rick has to somehow follow that up. How is he going to do it? I couldn't tell you. So, Rick, this week's rant roast from podium.
Okay, well, this is kind of going to be a little bit of a makeshift sort of thing because, it's been the end of the year. I've been kind of doing a lot of compiling and a lot of, thinking about all the things that have been going on here. So there's a couple things here that are going to be about college football, but I'm going to sandwich that with a topic that's going to bring us down a bit, but is going to be kind of more like a, grand scheme rant of everything. So number 3 on my rants this week is the state of New Jersey and the Citrus Bowl. Now, I don't know if you knew this, but the Citrus Bowl featured Purdue University and their football team. And Purdue hired Drew Brees as a special assistant coach for this game. Okay, I get it. He's fine. He's the greatest Purdue quarterback of all time. Not a big deal. Unfortunately, he's affiliated with PointsBet. Now, while gambling on sports is legal in Jersey and in New York, New Jersey decided to halt all bets on the Citrus Bowl because Drew Brees, who's with PointsBet, is affiliated now with the Purdue University football team as an assistant coach. So let's take this through here. Number 1, why don't we vet this more often? I mean, I get it. In pro football, gambling is legal, but they always say don't bet on college and all this sort of stuff. People do it anyways, but they always say don't bet on it. And if you're a guy who is tied up with a betting network, you should disclose that to the person that's hiring you because that could be a problem here. So this is a fault on everybody's part. The Citrus Bowl, state of New Jersey, PointsBet, Drew Brees, everybody, you're at fault here. I personally don't bet on games. Haven't thought about it. Won't start. We'll just do the ESPN The Streak thing where it's like, I try and win as many games as possible. As you saw from my picks this year, it hasn't gone very well. So, that's neither here nor there. Number 2, the year of 2022 has been, to put it mildly, it's been a rough one for this topic. And so I just want to tell the year 22, and this rant goes out to a very special person named the Grim Reaper. Slow the hell down. Okay? We lost Bob Saget in the beginning of this year, and in the last 3 days, Pele, Barbara Walters, and Pope Benedict XVI. Don't take that many people. There's still plenty of good people on this earth. You want to take Nathaniel Hackett? That's fine, not a big deal. I mean, you want to take Chris Brown? I'm fine with that too. Hey, I'm trying to get rid of people. But like the good people, stop. Honestly, slow down, Grim Reaper. I'm at 31, staring at 32. It's not my time yet. Slow down. Take the deer. Why not? Take the deer. Absolutely. That's fine. And I think Justin will be very happy, especially if the Jets don't win on tomorrow. Now, number 1, I'm going to go back to the college bowl games for a second. First of all, there are too goddamn many of these bowl games. I mean, I love a good college bowl as much as the next guy, but there's way too many of them. I mean, you only need to know that when a bowl is sponsored by Jimmy Kimmel of all late night hosts, that there's too many bowl games going on. First of all, Jimmy Kimmel is not a funny comedian, and secondly, don't encroach on my college football games. But let's talk about the Gatorade bath at the end of college football games. It's a nice celebration. It's a nice way to kind of I got a Gatorade bath once for my birthday. From the soccer team that I coached for. I had a flu the next week, but neither here nor there. Let's talk about the bowls that are food-related, where they've decided instead to do Gatorade baths of that. So there was the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl that was played yesterday, where the winning coach was doused in Frosted Flakes. Because, Tony the Tiger, Frosted Flakes, okay. There was the Cheez-It Bowl.
Frosted Flakes with milk?
No, just Frosted Flakes. Dry Frosted Flakes. I know. Well, they'd be soggy if they're there for 4 quarters, so it wouldn't be good for anybody. There was the Cheez-It Bowl, where, you guessed it, they dumped Cheez-Its on the winning coach. Very original, very, very original. There was the years ago they had the San Francisco Bowl, which was the Emerald Almonds San Francisco Bowl. So yes, they dumped almonds on people. Great, awesome. Maryland played NC State in the Duke's Mayo Bowl. I think that was yesterday. The winning coach from Maryland got a bath of mayonnaise. Now, I have a very important question to ask and then a rant. Is mayonnaise an instrument? I don't believe so. So don't dump it on your coaches. Like keep the mayo on the sandwiches or, on, apparently, this all happened too. They asked players in the bowl, do you like mayonnaise? And if so, what do you put it on? That sounds like a Tinder profile question, but neither here nor there. One guy said, no, I don't like mayonnaise. Your prerogative, that's fine. One guy said, yeah, I do, and I put it on chicken sandwiches. That's classic. Chicken sandwich mayonnaise is very Southern. The last guy said, I put it on my spaghetti.
Wait, didn't last year the quarterback say he puts it in his coffee?
Yes. And then at halftime, the commentators for the Mayo Bowl had the Duke's Mayo mascot, and they decided to try mayonnaise on macaroons, which are the soft cookie. Like, think about it like this. Think about like do you know the Oreo cakesters, like the softer Oreos? So imagine that dipped in mayonnaise. No, absolutely not. I once knew a girl who literally snacked on a whole jar of mayonnaise in high school. Kept her singing voice great, but like no one ever wanted to stand near her while she was doing a solo because whew, bad breath, hi caramba, rotten eggs. So the main point of this. The Gatorade bath is classic. It's timeless. It's synonymous with sports and winning. Don't desecrate it by, throwing, Cheez-Its or Tony the Tiger Frosted Flakes. The Bahamas Bowl is sponsored by Popeyes. So what they do? Dump fried chicken on people or mashed potatoes? Like, I don't ruin something that's classic. In the year 2023, our resolution should be keep classics classics. Don't try and update them with newfangled things. As I say that, with Top Gun Maverick being my favorite movie of 2022, because it's the greatest movie of all time. But regardless, don't try and update the classics because they are classics. Classics include Duncan being terrible and sucking. Classics include me wanting to fight Adam Rank. Classics including Belgium not being a country anymore. Those are classics. Let's have the classics stay the classics because that will make the world a better place. Thank you all. Have a happy new year in 2023. May all your picks be true. And for me, just may they be fun. Because that's all that matters at the end of the day.
Evidently so. Shout out, I will say this one thing about the Mayo Bowl. Shout out to Mike Golick Jr. I think it was last year. Or it was either last year or the year before. We took an Oreo, like a regular Oreo cookie, put it in mayonnaise, and then ate it. I give credence to Gojo because Mike Golick Jr. is actually wildly entertaining. And he actually made that look like funny.
He's very entertaining. Absolutely.
He's highly entertaining, outstanding personality. That should be on like everyone's like radar.
Well, the funny thing was that the broadcast, Anish Shroff was loving the macaroons and mayonnaise, and he's trying to like force the mayonnaise jar into Brock Osweiler's mouth as he's talking about like what the game's going on. You have a game going on.
Yeah.
Why are you trying to shove mayonnaise on this guy's face? Yeah. Who also didn't like it? Which it was a white chocolate macaroon and mayonnaise. Like, come on. Like, get different flavor profiles or color profiles for that matter, for food and all that sort of stuff. It's just,
Indeed.
Mayonnaise.
Well, speaking of Rick mentioning 2023, that is it for us in the year 2022 here on the Sports Agents of Chaos podcast, our last episode of the year, going into the new year. Next week's episode should be one heck of a time. For those of you that have actually watched us throughout this year, thank you so much. We do highly appreciate it. This podcast was a spur of a convo moment between the three of us, which eventually became four, of like, hey, we always talk football when we work together. Let's do it. Let's do it on Twitter and YouTube now, huh, boys? So it's been wildly fun to talk with like these two knuckleheads this entire year, and it has been one of the highlights for me, especially whenever I have downtime during the weekend for myself personally. So to you boys, thank you so much for making this year entertaining, and for all the people that watch us, thank you so much. And don't worry, 2023, we plan to continue to entertain you all as well on a weekly basis And yes, this will be fun. Our first playoffs we get to do, and then a first full and proper offseason, because we kind of started like a couple weeks into the offseason last year. A true first full year is what you're going to get out of the Sports Agents of Chaos in 2023. And you're going to want to be around for the ride. And tell your friends. Bring them on to the show. And we're just going to have an amazing time here, because at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, the Sports Agents of Chaos podcast, it's about having fun. It's about talking football. It's about causing, as Rick can show, quite a bit of chaos. Thank you all so much for the amazing 2022. And we will see you guys next week. We will see you guys next year in 2023.
Happy New Year.